So the conversation now moves to sort of open forum questions. These gals on my left here, stage right, no, it's fine, have an early advantage, but anyone who wants to address one of the questions I'm going to ask next can feel free to raise a hand and get a microphone passed to them. So the first question is it socially problematic to be religious?
I think I can start on this one.
Okay, Osama.
I think just like the burden of practicing religion in open spaces is something that's commonly associated with the problem of being religious. So, you know, socially problematic, like it's like, yeah, practicing religion publicly takes two forms, I can see it. One, like praying in public, saying Assalamu alaikum, very physical manifestations, but also the more subtle aspect, in my opinion, more important, is, you know, seeing people who practice religious, like, you know, practice openly, and taking their back. So if you see, you know, your Muslim sister wearing a hijab and someone's harassing her, you know, you can either, you know, you just like watch and see it happen, or you can just, you know, you can defend her. So that's like another aspect of, practicing religious publicly, and it's kind of a social problem in the sense that it's not easy to do, it's uncomfortable, and it puts people in their discomfort zone. So yeah.
It makes me think of a video on behaving well and thinking about true diversity in a workplace that everybody at KQED had to watch. And their argument was, if you see something, say something. Don't stand back in silence while you watch something go on which should not go on. And sometimes by saying something, you sort of, the whole rest of the room feels that relief, like, oh, God, I'm glad. Somebody just set the line. Somebody set the line of respect where it should be placed. And that's how we maintain those lines of respect with each other. Now, this next question just basically bounces off the title of this dinner tonight. When do you think freedom of religion became fear of religion? When did we sort of turn the corner from saying, oh, everybody is free to practice whatever faith they want to, but we'd rather you just didn't make a fuss about it, didn't do it in public, didn't, I don't know, just make it obvious to us that you actually do practice a religion?
So kind of, we've talked a little bit about this, about how there's kind of a lack of language to be able to express that. And I wouldn't necessarily say it's a complete fear of religion. It's more of a fear of being identified as a religious person. Kind of like Osama was saying, when you take the initiative to do an action that is outwardly religious, like going, oh, hey, I'm gonna go take 5 minutes and pray, whether it's in front of your friends or to talk to a professor and say, hey, I'm gonna be late to class, I have to pray, that takes a lot of guts right now. And many people are not willing to do that. They're scared that, oh, I'm gonna be outed as a Muslim, and they wanna stay behind this curtain of anonymity. So I think it's more the fear of practice, because I know with a lot of my friends, there's still a deep sense of awe in religion, because whenever they see me saying, oh, I'm gonna go pray, they're really impressed that I actually take the time to go pray 5 times a day. And I now have friends who are better at reminding me about my prayers than like my phone app. They're more on top of it, which I'm really grateful for. But that's come from me taking that step to say, I'm going to make it public that I'm Muslim by wearing hijab, because especially as a minority religion in America right now, any of these actions, they put you on a pedestal, and you represent so much more for so many people. So you really do, your character shows even if you don't want it to.
That's a heavy weight of responsibility.
Yeah.
And yet, simply by being nice, normal, rational, people go, oh, I know her, yes, she's Muslim. I get that.
Yeah.
Let's bring the mic over to this side. Imam, you started talking about this earlier, and I'm wondering if you can expand on it. Can you talk about mosques and communities around the U.S. that are doing creative things, maybe even radical things, to bring young people into the fold?
So you have a few models to think of, but unfortunately I can't think of a lot. I think I can count them on one hand. And I have to be honest about that. I think Adam Center with Dr. Muhammad Majid is doing some really incredible work. I think you have institutions outside of the mosque. Now we have this third space phenomena in the Muslim community, similar to what you're seeing in the church community. So Iman in Chicago is really doing some incredible work that is galvanizing young people to really do things that even the mayor of Chicago hasn't been able to do yet in very incredible ways. I think Ta'leef here is doing an incredible job. You have what's called Make Space in Washington, D.C., a group of young professionals, young people who are frustrated with kind of what's going on in the community, and all of them have had really the guts to push the envelope. And what I mean by the guts to push the envelope is really to challenge not only practices, not our fundamental practices as we understand them, but how we practice religion. I think your question earlier was very interesting. I don't think the problem is religion. I think how people practice religion tends to be very problematic. I spoke on CNN during the Boston crisis, and we in Boston developed what we call the language of the other. We're not going to go on and say, we as American Muslims. Why do I have to say that? We as American Muslim citizens. I mean, stop. Just say we as Bostonians, right? And you can say POC if you want to. But just speak that way and talk about Tom Brady and then throw in something about Islam and what happened afterwards. And I'm very cautious of how we're portraying the media here today as being very anti-Islam and anti-Muslim. My experience in the Boston crisis was that they don't understand us because we don't speak a dialectic that they can understand. And when I walked away from that interview with CNN, the producer, she ran after me. She's from Texas, so I'm from Oklahoma. We don't like each other. But we were walking, and she grabbed my arm, and she said, you know what? I like your theology. I like your community. Muslims are nice people, and the food is amazing, right? But she said, this is the first time in 20 years we had a guest who spoke American. She said, we've had guests who spoke English, and I know that can be problematic, and we're using American in the broadest sense of the word here. But the point was, I think how we present religion, and we know as Muslims that we have this dawah button. We always have to tell people, something about our religion, maybe they'll convert. That makes people really uncomfortable. Whereas I had a friend who was working out with a trainer, hold on, sister, I'm sorry, who was, it's like an applause, it's like a sitcom. Laugh. But he was working out with a trainer for 6 months. And my friend is an imam. And one day the trainer asked him, what do you do? He said, I'm a minister. He said, really, where? What church? He said, no, at a mosque. And he said, everyone in the little kettlebell lab just like dropped their kettlebells and they were like, you're Muslim? But you're religious? Like, you're cool. You're normal, right? So I don't think the issue is necessarily religion. I think it's how religion is presented to people that really turns them off.
Simone, I'm wondering if you can, fabulous comments here. If you can talk about things you see in the Jewish community, people who are finding ways to open the tent.
Yeah, my personal experience has been through social justice work in the Jewish community that I've found to be incredibly inclusive and tent opening. And I think particularly engaging for young people who might feel that the synagogue is not necessarily the place where I might feel most Jewish, but rather through living my Jewish values of tikkun olam, healing the world, tzedakah, meaning justice. I live those values by acting on them through community organizing.
So people see you out in the community.
Yeah, I think as you mentioned, Imam mentioned the different languages we speak. One of those languages I think is community organizing, and that to me is really innovative and allows for cross-religious and cross-faith collaboration in really innovative ways, and to me is the most engaging these days.